So the first main concept that we're going to introduce to you here in Chapter 6 is this concept known as perfect competition and what it means for a market to be considered perfectly competitive. So there are 4 conditions for a market to be considered this perfectly competitive aspect. First off, products are homogeneous. There are no barriers to entry or exit. There is a large number of buyers and sellers, and this is arguably one of the most important aspects of perfect competition is that there are a large number of buyers and sellers, and that perfect information exists to all participants regarding prices, quantities, quality, sources of supply, etc. So let's go ahead and break down these 4 different components. The very first one is that products are homogeneous. Well, what does homogeneous mean? Homogeneous means the same. So whenever we say products are homogeneous, that means that products are the same. That means that products sold by one business is a perfect substitute. A perfect substitute for another product sold by another business. So what does that mean? Well, buyers can buy from multiple sellers. So let's think about this. Let's imagine that you're a feedlot and you need to buy feed grade corn. Well, are there multiple firms out there that are multiple farms that actually produce food grade or feed grade corn? Well, yes, you can buy from multiple sellers, and it doesn't really matter which seller you buy from because as long as it's the same quality, corn is corn is corn. A homogeneous product means that the corn that you might buy from Farm A and Farm B are perfect substitutes of each other. It doesn't matter if you buy it from Farm A or Farm B because you're going to get the same exact quality in both cases. So which firm are you going to buy it from? Well, it doesn't matter as long as prices are the same. If they're not the same, guess what? You're going to be buying it from that lower price competitor. So that's an important aspect, is that products are homogeneous, meaning you can buy it from any one of the firms out there because they're perfect substitutes. The second one is no barriers to entry or exit. What does that mean? Well, it means that resources are free to move into and leave the sector without encountering barriers. There's no licensing, there's no patents, there's no legal restrictions. So let's think about a corn farmer. Anyone can be a corn farmer if they want to, as long as they have enough money. If they have enough money, they can go out and buy the land, they can hire a manager, or they can go out and buy the equipment and buy everything themselves, and they could actually become a corn farmer tomorrow if they have enough money. Now, I understand not everybody has the skill set to be a farmer. That's not what we're really talking about. But there is no legal restraints preventing them from becoming a corn farmer. There's nothing that keeps them from actually entering into it as long as they have enough money to buy in. Now, if they don't know how to farm, they might fall flat on their face the first year and go bankrupt. That's not what we're saying here. We're saying that as long as that there's no legal barriers for them to get into that sector. Also, there's no barriers for them to leave. There's nothing that's going to keep a corn farmer that decides, you know what, I want to retire tomorrow, from closing down their farm and stopping tomorrow. There's no legal barriers to entry or exit. The next aspect, and like I said, is probably arguably one of the more important components of perfect competition, is that there are a large number of buyers and sellers. Matter of fact, there are so many buyers and sellers that no one person can dictate the market. So let's go back to our corn example. There are so many corn farmers out there that no one corn farmer can actually set their price. Because they can't set their price, they're actually price takers, which means that they take the market price. They don't get to dictate their prices. No one firm can control the market, and no one farmer can dictate a price. At the same token, there are so many buyers of corn out there that no one buyer can actually depress prices because they don't feel like paying that much. There's so much competition out there that if a corn farmer doesn't get market price, what do? They're just going to go to another corn buyer and actually get market price. So that way, no one can control the market, and no one can actually dictate the price. Now, the last aspect is perfect information exists to all participants regarding prices, qualities, quantities, sources of supply. So perfect information exists to all participants. Plenty of market reports on corn. So I keep coming back to corn to use corn as an example. And in reality, we know that a lot of agricultural commodities come very close to this perfect competition. Look at most, if not, or most of the agricultural commodities here in the United States, especially a lot of the row crops and even livestock. Let's look at live cattle, for example, or cattle, for example. There are so many sellers of cattle that no one cattle producer, no one cow-calf producer can actually dictate the market. Meanwhile, there are a lot of cattle buyers, and there's a lot of places for cattle to go into the different feedlots, meaning that no feedlot can actually dictate the price either. Now, there's plenty of market reports out for cattle, and there's, just like in the corn example, there's no barriers to entry or exit. So whenever we get into agriculture, you stop and think about the USDA. The USDA produces a lot of different market reports. These market reports are often regarding prices, and we can look up prices every single day from local commodity reports. Often these USDA reports are producing out reports for quantities, for qualities, where are they at in the United States, things of that nature. So there are plenty of market reports. So if all four of these conditions are met, if there are products that are truly homogeneous, there are no entry to exit, no barriers to entry or exit, there is a large number of buyers and sellers, there's perfect information. If all four of those conditions are met, we say that the market structure is considered perfectly competitive, and that all businesses within the market are perfectly competitive. If these are perfectly competitive businesses, they are price takers. They cannot dictate the price. They do not establish prices. They must accept the market price for what they buy or sell. So, as we go through this chapter, we are going to look at all of the different aspects, such as inputs and outputs, and what is a profit maximizing position that we're going to be at. And we're going to look at it from a perfectly competitive standpoint. We're going to assume that the market that we're operating in is perfectly competitive. So as we go through the graphs throughout this chapter, as we go through the graphs and the theoretical analysis, and the practical analysis that we're going to do in this chapter, we are going to assume that we're working in a perfectly competitive market. And we're going to see a lot of agricultural examples, one, because this is an ag econ class, but also because agriculture is one of the industries that come closest to perfectly competitive markets. Now, we can find exceptions to that rule, but we know that agriculture is as close to perfectly competitive as we get in most cases. So from here on out, we're going to use this perfectly competitive market as our foundation whenever we're talking about, or whenever we go through our analysis. And we're obviously going to be using a lot of agriculture examples.